I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I thank the witness for appearing, and I also thank the staff for the outstanding job they're doing in providing intelligence. Mr. Director, you've indicated that there is a housing crisis for renters. And in so indicating, I assume that you're talking about the 30 to 40 million people who are at risk of eviction through the end of the year, or the intelligence I received from staff. I assume that you're talking about the 1.5 million renters in the same survey who reported that they'd not paid their previous rental payment. I assume you're talking about the 40% of Houstonians who could not make their August rent payment due to the pandemic. I assume that all of these things are correct. Am I correct in assuming these things, Mr. Director?
Congressman, I would say however you want to measure it, there's very clearly a stress among renters today, and that's where the greatest housing needs remain.
And I would also call to your attention words of Dr. King. He reminded us that life is an inescapable network of mutuality tied to a single garment of destiny. What impacts one directly impacts all indirectly. So this inability to pay rent, while it's a direct impact on the renter, it also has an impact on the person who happens to be called a landlord, who may have a mortgage that has to be paid. Then that has an impact on the mortgage holder. So there's a chain of events that take place when the renter cannot make the rental payment. Do you agree?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. In so agreeing, then it becomes of paramount importance that we not allow the chain to get beyond the renter. If the rent is paid, then the landlord, who happens to be a mortgage holder, is paid, the mortgage company is paid. I believe that paying the rent is of paramount importance. The rent must be paid, not delayed. Moratoriums on rent ultimately don't help the landlord. The landlord still has bills to pay and is depending upon the rent. So the rent must be paid. This is why, under the leadership of the Honorable Maxine Waters, there's $100 billion in the HEROES Act that has passed the House, Mr. Director, $100 billion for renters to assist them. But in so doing, it will assist the landlord as well as the mortgage company. Remember, inescapable network of mutuality. This mutuality would also afford us the opportunity to maintain a stronger economy. It all comes together. There's also in the HEROES Act the $75 billion to help mortgage holders. This is significant money and probably is the means by which we can salvage what may become an economic downturn that may exceed the last great recession. So my question to you is simply this: isn't it true that we have to pay the rent so that we can take care of all of the other persons in this chain? Otherwise, all we're doing to a certain extent is delaying the inevitable for a good many people.
Well, before answering the question directly, let
me just share this with you, Doctor. My time is of the essence. So why don't you start with answering my question, and then we'll see if we can get to the other aspect. Okay.
Just to remind you, we are providing forbearance to multifamily renters, but the answer, of course, is we need to deal with the rental situation.
Yes, we do have to deal with the rental situation. And so I mentioned this to you finally in this fashion. You said earlier, and I made a note of it, that the committee had not provided a penny to help you with this situation. Let me just ask you to rethink that for a moment, if you would kindly. In this sense, the committee, under the leadership of the Honorable Maxine Waters, has passed legislation to deal with the situation. Pay the rent, pay the mortgages. The House has voted on the legislation provided by the Honorable Maxine Waters. It has passed the House. So the truth is that the House has done its part. It's the Senate that won't take up the House's legislation. So I'm not trying to create an argument with you. I just want you to have some degree of, I want you to have some degree of respect for what the committee has done and how it has met its mandate to meet the needs of the American people. I talked to the people who are engaged in this renting business, and they're called realtors. They help us in various ways. And the realtors tell me they're very much concerned about not only the rent, but the mortgages. So this committee is dealing with the issues that the realtors who are right there where the rubber meets the road, can you agree that we've got to pay the rent so that we can pay the mortgages? Your final response, can you agree that we have to pay the rent so that we must pay the mortgages so that the mortgages can be paid?
I agree we must deal with all these issues, and I have to deal with issues, and I can't wait to the houses to come to agreement. So respectfully, I encourage everybody to work together.
Fair statement.
This time has expired.
Thank you.